civil servants who've helped Singaporeans cope during the COVID-19 pandemic are in the spotlight. In conjunction with Public Service Week, they're starring in 4 docudramas showcasing their work with the public.
At one point, she was very irritated with me and she asked me, "Why are you so quiet?" And I told her, "No, ma'am, I'm hearing you out." And I asked her, "Have you had your dinner? What's for dinner tonight?" She was quiet and she told me, "It's long since someone cared for me and asked me this."
The series spotlights little anecdotes like this from officers who contributed across various functions. They range from counselling to creating the SafeEntry system that businesses have used to reopen safely. The filmmakers also tell the stories of frontline personnel who cared for migrant workers in dormitories, as well as those who transformed hotels into stay-home notice dedicated facilities. For more, we're joined by 2 of the filmmakers, Rajagopal and Tariq Mansor.
Raja, before we come to you, let's take a quick look at a short snippet in your film.
Madam Go? Yes, this is Marcus from the dorms.
Oh, hi Marcus.
Some of the workers, they're not used to this type of cuisine. I was wondering if perhaps you could adjust the menu, provide some Indian food instead.
Okay, we'll work on it. Let me discuss with our chef and I'll get back to you.
Raja, what we just saw there was how an officer at the dorm took initiative to ask for a change in the food catered for the migrant workers. Just tell us a bit about the significance of this scene.
When I interviewed Marcus, the public service officer, because this film is based on a true story, he was relating some anecdotes about what happened at the dorms and how he took care of the migrant workers. And this anecdote stuck with me because, it really showed how sensitive they were, these officers. They really cared for the migrant workers as though they were part of their family, like a family member or a friend, you see. And especially food, these migrant workers were very vulnerable and they were away from home, they were isolated. And I think, food is something that's very comforting and very important. And the officers going out of the way, in this case, Marcus, going out of the way to ensure that they were comfortable, I felt was very sensitive and very important to depict in the film. So that's why I felt that this scene was very important and I included it in the scripting process and in the film itself.
Raja, so much sensitivity, so much material that you could have chosen from those anecdotes that you heard. How did you sort of drill that down and decide which ones finally made it into the film?
I think because the objective for me, when I wanted to tell their stories, I wanted to ensure that there was fair representation about their stories. And so when I chose the stories, I wanted to show how much they made some sacrifices. These officers, the workers, their stories were told in the media. What they suffered, and rightfully so. I think we needed to know about what the migrant workers went through or what they're going through. But with these officers, they also made some big sacrifices and how they volunteered and how they could not see their families or go home on time and they had to work extra hours. And they did it with a lot of heart and they were not detached. It was not just a job for them. So they were very sincere about really taking care of the workers. So I was very careful in choosing these scenes to show this aspect of the public service officers, which many of us don't know about. So I thought it was very important for me to choose these kind of scenarios or, shared experiences, which was very important for, I thought, the audience to know about.
Yeah, Tariq, you've also got some stories to tell. Let's first, though, take a look at a part of your piece as well.
Eric Montero. I understand, but this is a special case.
Have his wife fight with yours?
Hold on. Could you help me get my... Thank you so much. She's on A387 from Sydney.
She's on the way here?
Yes, that's correct.
He wants to sub this.
That's right.
Okay.
A transfer location, please.
Okay, let me see what I can do.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Tariq, similar to Raja, you made this piece based on experiences from public service officers. How did the anecdotes that they shared resonate with you?
Well, after speaking to the public service officers, and you hear some of the, and even from some of the people that I know that who have served their stay-home notice, you kind of get a sense of how it was like to live in a room for 14 days, and it affected us very differently. Like some struggle with anxiety, some struggle with being away from their loved ones, and some just feel very uncertain. And it was amazing how these public service officers went above and beyond, how they attended to their needs, and no request was too trivial. For example, there was a scene in the film where a young mother needed a freezer to keep the breast milk for her baby, and we all know how the hotel minibar is like. So these service public officers went out of their way, calling everyone they could. Eventually managed to get ice cream freezer, and it was sent up to the room of the mother, and she eventually could, safely store her breast milk. So this is just one of the examples of how these public service officers could have easily turned away requests, but they didn't. And this is what resonated with me the most.
Some very heartening stories, Tariq. What do you hope people will take away from watching this short docudrama?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway from this film is that we shouldn't underestimate the smallest gesture of kindness. Anyway, that's the theme of my film, because our characters are actually doing very small things within their means, which ultimately makes a huge difference in people's life. I think more than ever in a time like this, we sort of have to look out for one another in whatever way we can, because we are really like stronger together. And hopefully this S1 campaign serves as a reminder, and it's like a platform where people can just show their support through social media, or even just to watch their films and see the hard work these public service officers have done and will continue to do.
Yes, and thank you for shining a light on it, both of you, as we've been speaking with filmmakers Rajagopal and Tariq Mansor, who are part of the As One initiative.